Good afternoon. We will get started here. We'll probably still have a couple of attendees showing up, so I will sort of start slowly, purposefully. Let me introduce myself to start. My name is Eric Roth. I am the manager of the software engineering group here at Onset. I've been here about 10 years, and myself and my group are responsible for the Hobo Link and the HOBOware software platform. So if you have any questions, concerns, gripes, what have you about our software, I'm certainly the person to talk to. So what I'm going to be talking about today is some new features specific to the Hobo Link software, and the Hobo Link software is used with our U30 product. So I'm going to be running through some of the new features that we've just released. But before we start, I want to give a small disclaimer. As of yesterday, we've actually been having some unexpected connectivity issues with the hosting provider at our data center. It's not a normal occurrence, but it might cause some of the data from our U30s to be delayed. It's not going to affect our webinar today, but it could be noticeable if you decide to view some of our publicly available U30s following the webinar. So not a huge issue as far as what we're going to be learning about and talking about today, but I just wanted to put that out there just in case you do decide to check things out. And for those of you who are existing HOBOlink U30 customers, I can tell you we're working closely with our data center to get things back up to full connectivity again. So with that, let's move over to our agenda. I'll give you a quick overview of Onset as a company, a little background into HOBOlink, the product itself, into the U30, which is the hardware product that HOBOlink was purpose-built around. Then we'll spend the majority of the time talking about three specific new features that we have in place, do some summary, and then leave ample time for questions at the end. So as a company, just a brief overview for those of you who don't know us. We're the company that makes industry-leading Hobo data loggers. We've been making data loggers since 1981 here in Massachusetts on Cape Cod, and we design and build all of our products in our facility here. Our logging solutions are used all over the world for monitoring environmental conditions and building performance, and we also have a global network of dealers to service our customers all around the world. But our primary focus is on data logging and environmental monitoring. As far as the webinar details, we're going to run for about an hour. It might not quite take the entire hour, given that we're really focusing only on a handful of new features. Please type your questions into the questions section in the control panel. I will leave plenty of time for questions at the end, and I do expect that could be a good, I don't know, 30 minutes of presentation followed by a fair number of questions. The webinar is being recorded, and I would ask that if you are up for it, to please complete the webinar evaluation at the end. So just start with a few details about HOBOlink. HOBOlink is a web-based software package that we manage, we host here at Onset. It has a series of remote system management capabilities for the U30 products. You can do things like setting up and managing alarms. You can do alarm notifications over the web. You can also download, export data to HOBOware, to Excel, to text files, and actually that specifically is the area that we're going to be focusing on today, because that is the area that we've really shored up and improved with the new release of HOBOware. HOBOware also has an internal web services interface, and for those of you who are familiar with web services, it provides direct data access or any third-party access for really for more of the technically oriented folks who want to extract data from HOBOlink. The U30 is the hardware product that HOBOlink is specifically designed to work for. The U30 is a remote monitoring system where it can connect to our servers over cellular, Wi-Fi, and Ethernet communications. It's extremely versatile. It can be used for both indoor and outdoor applications, and it is very easy to deploy. It literally is, you take it into the field, you plug the sensors into it, you turn it on. It automatically starts connecting to HOBOlink, automatically offloads its data to HOBOlink. So it really is very easy to deploy. We support a wide range of plug-and-play sensors. I won't get into the list, but pretty much anything that you could want to monitor, the U30 should be able to record and log. And the U30 itself has the ability to send alarms. What it actually is doing is firing its own alarm, notifying HOBOlink, and then HOBOlink has the ability to text and email. So let's switch over to HOBOlink briefly. So this is the HOBOlink interface. I'm logged into one of our internal network of energy monitoring systems that we have here at Onset. Not all of these are currently active devices. The ones that are blue are the ones that are active. So when you log into HOBOlink, you get a general listing of devices. You can click into any of the devices and get more of a dashboard-like view where you can see the latest conditions of the device. You can open up and see some details such as labeling, scaling, the product code, the serial number. You can look at the connection history, either just a brief, the last 5 connections, or you can click in here and see all of the connections. You also get quick access to the latest data and general device information, some general information, as well as information about the communications plan that it is on. Now, this specific unit is a Wi-Fi unit. And then you get a nice view of the past day, week, and month's worth of data. Down here, you can take a look, and I won't go through the details of this right now, but you can get device, launch, readout information. But this one I will click in just so you see. We'll take a look at the alarm screen real quick. So there's a variety of tripped alarms here, but you have the capability of configuring system alarms. There's 4 different types of system alarms, and you can set up sensor alarms, and I won't spend time today setting up the sensor alarms. So moving a little forward, you can go to a data tab. The data tab is separated out into the actual data files, and those are CSV or text-based data files and our binary data files that come directly off the loggers. And you can get into custom data, but that is one of the new features, so I'll hold off on getting into any detail there. And then there's a set of settings and a support tab for that has a variety of items. Oops. All right, so let's get into the new features. Where I'm going to start is with export settings. It used to be, for those of you who are used to HOBOlink, the previous versions of HOBOlink really didn't have the ability to customize export. If you're familiar with our desktop HOBOware platform, you'll know that you have a lot of customization in HOBOware and the ability to set a variety of different ways that you can export your data. Using feedback from our customers in HOBOware, we moved a lot of that customization, or we replicated a lot of that customization in the HOBOlink product. So you can change file format settings, FTP settings, and email settings. And rather than getting into the details here, I will show it to you in the product itself. So you go to the Settings tab, you click the Export button, and this is all new. So you have the ability to set the default file type. You can choose from a general text file, which is a .csv, an Excel file, or what we call a HOBOware CSV. And all HOBOware CSV is it's a CSV file, but it is formatted very specifically so that it can seamlessly be opened by HOBOware. You can choose the column separator, the date format. It gives you an example here. You can choose the date separator, the time format, the time zone, and there are a large variety of time zones here. Choose the positive number format as well as the negative number format. You just choose to separate the date and time into two columns, which some post-processing programs require a date and time in two columns, some do not. You can choose to include the line number column, include the sensor label in the column header, and include the export settings in the column header, just so you know what your settings were when you generated that. Now you'll note that a number of these say that they're ignored for HOBOware CSV files. That's specifically because even if you choose the HOBOware CSV file, many of these options will actually be overridden because HOBOware doesn't like them if, depending on specific, exactly what you've chosen. So we'll leave it at Excel for now. So you can also go in and set up your default FTP settings, and as well as your default email settings, and these will be used elsewhere in the application. Just to be clear, this is only the spot where you would set the defaults. If you don't use the other areas of the application, there really wouldn't be any reason to set up the defaults. But the defaults are just to allow you to save some time later on. So that's the export settings. So the next new feature that we're going to be talking about is some customizations in exporting the custom data itself, which gives you some options that, again, I'll go over by viewing the software, and gives you the ability to customize the sensor order, which I'll also go over. And you do that through going to the Data tab, and on the Data tab it used to be just that you had data files there, but now you have this additional option, Custom Data. So under Custom Data, we have 4 different saved export settings here now, but rather than going into the details of those, I'll show you how to set one up. So what you'd do is you'd come in here and you'd start by saying, give it a name. So let's call this one Demo Settings. And here this will default to the settings that we set up before, but you can still override it if you want to. But we'll leave it at Excel for now. Again, the same thing for the time zone. But now we get into the meat of this. So there's 3 different ways, different types of settings that you can set up. You can have between. So you say, I want to export all data between one time and another time. You can say, I want data before a certain time. You can say, I want data after a certain time. And you can say, I want data over the past certain number of days. And I'll go over those again just to make sure that it's clear. When I do between, it is very specifically 2 time periods, and that's not a moving time window. And that's the same thing for before. If I say it's before a particular time period, that's not going to be a changing window. After will be any time after from the time that you choose to now. But I think what most people will end up using is over the past. All over the past means it's basically from today backwards the number of time intervals that you choose. So in this case, let's do it for 2 days worth of data, say. And then you can start going into, once you've actually selected the time frame and some of the other data, the other information surrounding your export. Now it's the important step, which is figuring out, well, what data do you want to actually extract? So you can do it by, this gives you a listing of all of the U30 devices that are in this account. And you can open each one of these up and see the sensors that exist on here. Now, the gray sensors are sensors that existed at one point on this device, but have since either been removed from this device or transferred over to a different device. But the data still remains in HOBOlink, so you have access to it in this feature. So let's go and pick a few different sensors off of this particular device, and let's pick some sensors off of a different device. And so I can either choose them individually, or I can select this, which selects all of them. So now that I've selected my sensors, you'll notice that as I moved them in, as I selected them, they automatically got added to this panel down here. And they just get added in the same order that you see them above. However, if I want, I can customize the order, so I can take them, drag them around, move them up and down, and I can get them into the exact order that I care about. So at this point, the simplest thing is to just say, well, I want to export it. You click the export, you get it automatically downloads it, and then you can open it with Excel. And with any luck, it will work. There we go. So you have it open in Excel. And if we go back to this, I've downloaded it, but it hasn't actually saved my settings yet. So if I wanted to say, run this once, but then run it again when I log in later, what I'd want to do is click Save, which, as you see, has now saved it to my list of settings here. So what I can now do is come in, I can edit it. Edit it just gets me back to the page that where we just were. I can copy it, and copying it just makes another copy, suggests the name for you. Let's cancel that. I can delete it, which is fairly obvious, or I can generate another export. So when I come back in here and I have all of my saved settings, it's really easy for me to just say to look for any, or to generate an export from any of these just by clicking export. You can see it's doing the same thing. Here, I'll cancel it so we don't have to go back over to Excel. So that's the saved export settings. This gives you a lot more customization than you've had before. For those of you who have used HOBOlink for a while, all you had was the ability to look at a data file, a CSV data file from one individual logger, and all of the sensors off of that logger. Now you have the capability to be able to slice and dice your data, put it together, and get an export file that is very specific to what you want at any given time, and save that for use later. All right, so let's get into our final feature, which is the scheduled data delivery, which dovetails in very, very well with the custom data feature that we were just looking at. So there are two ways to get to this new capability. You can either, from this particular window, you can click Schedule Delivery, which will take you to the new section, or you can go over to Settings and Data Delivery. So we'll just start here. So what I have is, and let's get rid of these two just to clean things up a little bit. Okay, we'll keep this one. So before I just run through a demo, let me give you a brief description of what this is. This gives you the capability to put an automated schedule in place for any of the custom data exports that you set up under the Data tab. So if you want to not have to log into HOBOlink in order to get your data, this will automate that for you, and it will automate the delivery through FTP or email. So let's set one of these things up. So you click the New button. So now I've got a new schedule, and I don't know, we'll call this, the new delivery, and you set your delivery interval. So you can say, I want the data delivered on this particular interval. In this case, let's say I want data, I don't know, delivered once per day. So I want daily data. You can choose to deliver only new data. Now what this is going to do is it'll override any of the time settings in the saved data sets, the custom data sets that you set up over in the data tab, and will allow the data to be bookended perfectly with one another. You won't have any overlap in the data. You won't have any gaps in the data. And you can also choose the option to email you on delivery failure. In other words, if for some reason at some point an FTP delivery or an email delivery fails, this will attempt to contact the owner of the account to tell them of that delivery failure. So then you go and select your data to export, and you have the capability to choose any of the saved custom data sets that you've set up before. And in this case, let's just do one of them. So we'll say over the past 2 days. So what this means, just to start to recap here, it means that every 1 day I will deliver this particular custom data, which is data over the past 2 days, and I will deliver it to, and we have to choose both or one of these. We'll just do email here. So just so our tech support doesn't get this one, I will do my own email address. You can choose to compress it, and now you save it. So you notice my new delivery is now listed over here in my set of scheduled deliveries. Just to double check, it is active. And if you hover over it, it will tell you when. And actually, I think it's, yeah, it hasn't yet calculated what the first time is. But if we look at the previous one, you can tell, it tells you that the delivery status is normal, and it will tell you the next expected run time. So now I have 2 deliveries set up, and I can set up as many deliveries as I want over any of the custom data sets that I want, and pretty much log out and forget about it. And you'll find that the data, in this particular case, once a day I would get a data file from these settings dumped into my inbox. So I think that covers that particular new feature. So now, I guess I'd ask people to start listing in some any questions that they might have, and let's see if I can get back over. Okay, so. All right, so we have some questions. So I guess before I actually dig into any of these questions, there's a couple other quick slides I wanted to run through. As far as contacting Onset, this is just some general information. Scott Ellis is our product marketing manager for the HOBOlink product, and he'd be happy to answer any of your questions. And he can forward you off to me or somebody else in the software or the tech support group if the questions are more technical in nature. You can certainly also contact Onset technical support. And any other questions you have about our products can be answered by our product application specialists, and any of all the contact information is there. Hobo training manuals, you can find a variety of information at our YouTube site, which sometimes it's a little bit easier to sit through a video rather than reading a manual, so this is helpful in many cases. So. And I think with that, let's move over to questions, which hopefully I'll be able to answer. Okay. I see a question. The first question is actually a known issue. There is a question about why does my gust speed graph read in meters per second when all the other parameters are specified in, I see, IP units. But there actually is a known issue with HOBOlink right now on the gust speed, and it's something that we're actively working on. Hopefully, we can get that fix in place and moved and deployed to our servers shortly. Let's see. Another question is, can data delivery be conditional? Data delivery conditional, I guess what I assume is meant by that is conditional on say, an alarm or on a particular parameter or logged value being met. No, we don't have that capability right now. Data delivery is just simply on a repeated schedule. There's nothing, there's no intelligence in the system beyond just that. Next question is, can you still print a graph? Well, you can print a graph. We haven't changed anything in the graphing capabilities in HOBOlink. You can still print a graph just like you would from a browser. You can drag the image also off of the browser and pull it in somewhere else. But no, we haven't changed anything as far as graph printing. You can, if you want slightly more functional graphing, you can export the data into HOBOware and generate a graph in HOBOware, and then you can print. There's a print preview capability in HOBOware and such. Okay. Question is, can we use devices that are not HOBO as inputs to the U30 unit? For example, something with a 4 to 20 milliamp output. Yes, absolutely you can. We have voltage and current inputs to the U30 and then you can use the HOBOlink scaling capabilities to convert to your particular units. So yes, absolutely you can. And if you want some more information about that, I'd highly recommend contacting our sales team. Question about what web browsers are compatible with HOBOlink. We do have a listing of the web browsers both on the Onset Comp website and on the HOBOlink website. Off the top of my head, I believe it's Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, and Safari, and in general the most current versions of them. We struggle to support as many browsers as we possibly can, but unfortunately all browsers are not made alike, and so we do tend to make some decisions. We do actually monitor browser usage of HOBOlink, and we base the browsers that we support on the customer's usages of the browsers. So if you're using a browser, rest assured that as long as other customers are using that browser as well, it'll come to our attention. Next question is, so the data resides on your server only, no way to capture the data on our server. Currently that is the case. It is a hosted service only, and we do not offer that capability. It's not to say that has not been discussed. It is just not currently on the list. If that is something that you have particular interest in, I'd highly recommend you contact Scott Ellis, because that is it's not the first time that we've heard that request. All right, so the next question is, what options for data connectivity are there for using HOBOlink with a weather station? For example, a wireless broadband, etc. I am assuming by weather station this means specifically the U30 itself, since the U30 is effectively a weather station. The U30 comes in There's three options. There is a cellular option, a Wi-Fi option, and an Ethernet option. Most of our weather station or outdoor customers choose the cellular option simply because you don't want to run an Ethernet cable to the device, and because the device is not close enough to get Wi-Fi access. There's a question. What does HOBO stand for? It's actually lore at Onset. I've been at Onset for 10 years, and I've heard a variety of answers. The HOBO brand started before I did. The best answer that I've heard is Honest Observer by Onset, but I don't know if that was actually the term for it. Yeah, I've also heard that just the founder liked the train theme and the idea of the hobo sort of being a ride along, didn't necessarily perturb the environment, but was able to measure and observe the environment. The next question is, do you have to use specific sensors to work with the HOBOlink software, or can I use my existing Onset logging sensors? The answer is yes, if you've been using Onset's smart sensor line in the past. If you were using Onset's MicroStation or Onset's energy logger or Onset's weather station, those sensors are compatible with the U30 system. So any of the smart sensors are compatible. Other sensors, the standard sensors, say, that would be used with our U12 suite are not compatible with the U30 or HOBOlink. Next question is, do you have wireless devices for remote I/O to transfer data from a remote location in the plant to the U30? We do not have currently the capability to transfer data wirelessly to the U30. The U30 transfers data wirelessly off of it, but as far as wireless sensors themselves, no, the U30 doesn't currently have that capability. We're always looking at different wireless technologies and wireless products, and obviously having wireless in conjunction with remote data logging or internet-enabled data logging would be a great combination, and it's certainly something that we talk about often, but we don't currently have something that combines those two. Let's see, this question. DTF files come in the format 1212, has the format for 24 hours. Let's see, as far as I'll do my best to answer that. What I think this is whether we support 12-hour format versus 24-hour format. Now, the DTF file itself is not, there's nothing in the DTF that is specific to 12-hour format. It just represents time as seconds since 2000 in GMT. It's the software's responsibility to convert that to 12 versus 24-hour time, and that's one of the new capabilities that we have in HOBOlink, is the ability to choose whether you want to display in 12 or 24-hour time format. So I guess I'd say check that feature out, and if you have additional questions, certainly give us a call. The next question, data storage capacity, question mark. That's a good question, actually. I did gloss over that. We currently store, so there's two ways in which HOBOlink stores data. It has always in the past stored data through just standard data files. As the data gets offloaded, the data gets stored as data files, binary data files as well as text-based data files. And those will store indefinitely. We don't put a limit on those. We have also, for several years now, been storing data in a database itself. So each reading gets stored in a database, and that has been specifically used by our web services customers. what these new features do is take advantage of the fact that we store the data in the database, because it's much easier to generate a custom data set from a database rather than combining a variety of files together and stitching them that way. We currently store 6 months worth of your data in that database. So these new capabilities that I've gone through as far as doing custom data as well as data delivery are limited to the last 6 months worth of data. I can't say that it will always be 6 months. We certainly would like to extend it out, but we have server bandwidth capabilities that we need to take into consideration. So 6 months is the short answer. And the next question, how long is data stored for future retrieval? I think that answer covers that. Indefinitely for data files, and 6 months for data in our database that is available for custom data sets and data delivery. Let's see, the next question. If I want to just monitor one sensor, is there a less expensive device to transmit the data other than the U30? No, as far as the data that if you want to just do monitoring of one sensor, but it's remote monitoring back to the U30 or back to HOBOlink. Unfortunately, the U30 is the only product that will communicate with HOBOlink right now. If you're interested in doing standalone monitoring, we have a variety of products that are much less expensive than the U30, but they don't do any transmission back to the U30 or to HOBOlink. Okay. Let's see, here's a question. I'm going to read this and attempt to make sure I understand it as I read it. It says, alarms. When you have a 20 degrees C for 16 hours and then it changes to 30 degrees C for 8 hours, can you set the alarm for 1.5 degrees above or below 20 C and 1.5 degrees above or below 30 C? I think I see what you're getting at, the idea of having basically two parameters, two particular set points. You can do it, but the way that you would do it is to set up two specific sensor alarms. You would have one sensor alarm for, actually in this case you would actually have 4 sensor alarms. You'd have one that would trip when it went above 21.5, one when it went below 18.5, one when it went above 31.5, and one when it went below 28.5, I believe. So it would basically be 3 separate sensor alarms that you would set up. Next question is about a camera. Has Hobo exercised the idea of a camera smart sensor for environmental monitoring that will use existing U30 parameters? We have contemplated the idea. We have not actually implemented the idea. It's an intriguing idea. One of the bigger concerns is simply byte usage. If you're on a GSM network, transferring that image can be expensive, but with data rates and data costs going down, that certainly is less of a concern. So, yeah, it's something that we've discussed, but it has not actually been released in the products yet. Next question is, if I have multiple job sites where I'm trying to log energy consumption, temperature, flow rates, etc., I'd need a U30 at each location, and I'd be able to see all job sites when I log into HOBOlink. Yes, you would need a separate U30 at each location. You would add all of those U30s to the same HOBOlink account, and you would, in fact, be able to see all the job sites when you log into HOBOlink. And with the new capabilities that I demoed today, you'd be able to combine the data from all of those job sites into one data file that you could have delivered to you on a regular basis. Question about cable length. What's the cable length limit for the sensor to the U30? I should know that, but I don't. So I apologize. I guess if you need the answer to that question, I'd recommend contacting tech support or sales. Question about labeling, I think. We have one U30 in an apartment building, but several sensors temperature sensors in an apartment. How do you label the sensors to correspond with each of the apartments they are reading temperatures? I'll just show you. So you would go over to a given device, and hopefully we're still broadcasting here. We'd take a look at the device, open up the details, and under the label, under each sensor, you can explicitly set up a label. So here you can see we have labels, and each of those show up parenthetically here. You can also now, with our new capabilities, elect to use that to put that label in the exported data file. Question: which server is the data stored in, yours or the client's? I covered that a little bit before. It's our server. This is an Onset hosted service, so it's on our servers. And I mean, I understand that there are some customers for whom that can be problematic, but in general, I can tell you that the amount of effort and energy to keep a system like that running is something that most people should be fairly happy for us to do for them. It takes a lot of the complexity away from our customers. Okay, the question is, the 6 months worth of data being stored regardless of logging interval? Yes, we put a 6-month limit on it. It doesn't matter what the logging interval is. Okay. This one. Yeah. It says, can you please explain the HOBOlink service plans, in particular SP002 and 003? SP002 and 003 are specific data plans for our Ethernet and our Wi-Fi devices. You don't pay for cellular charges with those because there simply aren't any. There's not a cellular service there. What you're paying for is use of the HOBOlink servers in particular. The 002 and the 003 plans, they really differ in their allowed logging and connection intervals. The specifics of exactly what, I'm not sure. I know that's on our website, but one allows a faster logging and connection rate. Okay, are there subscription service fees beyond the purchase of the U30? That's a good segue into that question. Yes, there are. We do the service fees range, gosh, I think from $120 a year up to several $100s per year, depending on the technology that you're using, being cellular, Wi-Fi, or Ethernet, and then depending on what you want for upload rates and for logging rates, which dictates the amount of data that's coming into our system and also residing on our system. And our website has a really nice listing of what all of the subscription, all the data plans are. Or you can also call contact sales to get some additional information. Okay, the next question, does the service plan include the local cellular service, or does the customer have to obtain that service? Yes, it does include the local cellular service. We install a SIM if you're buying our cellular devices, we install the SIM and manage the interactions with the cellular provider. You pay us a yearly subscription fee. We pay the provider for you and deal with any of the issues of connectivity and such. So we really try to insulate our customers from the complexity of dealing with the cellular providers. Next question, max limit on alarms. There really isn't a maximum limit on alarms. The only thing that alarms can do is if you are on a data-limited cellular plan, and you fire alarms that cause, or you set up alarms that cause the device to call in far more frequently than its nominal calling interval, you can exceed the amount of data, the bytes that are allotted to your device for a given month. If that happens, what we'll do is put your device into a much slower, automatically put the device into a slower calling pattern until the next month, in which case it will zero out your usage, and it will begin connecting again at a normal rate. But no, we don't put any explicit limit on alarms. Next question, can you change your horizontal and vertical increments on an axis, or does it always create its own increments based on the, and I don't know, it looks like that one got truncated. I think the answer, no, you can't change the horizontal and vertical increments. The plotting is static plotting in HOBOlink, and it really is just designed to be a very, very basic view of your data. If you want more customized graphing or more interactive graphing, we'd recommend that you pull the data down to our HOBOware product, in which you can do interactive graphing and use some of our tools and statistical analysis and such. Okay, it looks like somebody answered my question for me. The cable length limit is 100 feet after the smart sensor adapter. So I'll assume that that's the case. Hopefully it is. Okay, the question here, can the data be downloaded from your server every 6 months, since most clients need a 12-month historical data set for annual reports? Well, if you're down, we don't toss any of the data in the data files. So you can actually pull the data from data files for as long as the device has existed. You can't actually do the custom data sets for past 6 months. So what we recommend is if you want something like that, is to set up, say, an automatic data delivery to pull a month's worth of data and email it to you every month. So then when you need to roll up all of your data at the end of the year, you have that data already in your possession, rather than sitting on the HOBOlink servers. Let's see, next question. Besides using Excel, is there a way to combine voltage and current data to get power on one graph? No, there is not right now. That's an excellent idea. The idea of doing some sort of like a custom data set to give you the ability to combine multiple channels into another is a wonderful idea. Something that, you know, if it's something that you're interested in, we'd recommend Scott Ellis would be a great person to contact. Let's see, question, is the U30 UL listed? I don't know the answer to that question. Sales would, I'm sure, be able to answer that question. Okay, and the last question, at least for now, is have service fees increased in accordance with the new features released? No. We have not touched service fees. We tend to, we like to add new features as often as we possibly can. Certainly all of them, you know, we can't add everything that our customers are asking for, but we like to add new features, and I can't really remember a time in which we've added a software feature and for that feature we've charged more, and I don't, that model generally will not apply to us. I mean, where we'll charge you for is things like your data rates and the amount of data, just because that is a specific cost that we have to pay, and therefore we pass on to our customers. But no, as far as new features, we don't charge for those, and are not charging anything different based on these new features I've shown today. So I think that's the end of the questions. So let's go back here just to the PowerPoint, just so, and in case you haven't seen them before, I've mentioned contacting Scott Ellis, technical support and sales, our product application specialists, a couple of times. So there's the information if you do choose or need to contact anybody. So I think that's it. We are, let's see, 10 minutes early. So I guess with that, I will sign off and thank everybody for joining us today. Take care.